Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you guys. Welcome back for those of you that were here this morning, and welcome for anybody that may not have been here. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us again tonight. Great to have you guys here. Great to be here with you all, family. Good to see you. Again, tonight, guys, for those of you that did not know or weren't sure, tonight, guys, we're jumping into the true story behind the Son of Sam killer, Mr. David Berkowitz. So, welcome. Good to see you guys, and thank you so much once again for joining me. It is great to have you all here. Most of you guys were with me this afternoon, and that was a great show, guys. I appreciate your guys' input, your opinions, your theories, all of that, guys. It was a great show. Mama Bear and I were both very pleased with, first of all, you know, the outcome, the people that showed up. It was a great show, and I'm very pleased with it, and I thank you all very much for that. Very, very much, to be honest with you. So great to have you guys here again. I appreciate the support that you guys show the channel, the kind words, the comments, everything. You guys rock. You really do. And here we are, guys. Another evening episode as we're looking into the true story behind some version of Hollywood movies or series. There's a series on Netflix called The Sons of Sam. There's a couple movies about the Son of Sam killer, Mr. David Berkowitz, and his life and times, guys. Another horrific American serial killer, folks. What can I say? We're going to learn a little bit about him tonight. Those of you that don't know, we were just here, Janine. Welcome back. It's great to see you back again. Mondays and Thursdays are like that. Spend the whole day together for the most part, folks. But it doesn't bother me because you guys are awesome people. Who better to spend the day with? Good to see you. So who do we have here? Let's see. The OG, Miss Brandy B. What's up, my dear? Thanks for joining us again. Mrs. M, my dear. So great to see you here. Eddie's in the house. One made nut. Good to have you. Miss Janine Renee Saran. Or Saran. Either way, it's great to have you back here. The sweetest lady on the internet, Miss Cece's in the house. I love it. It's great to have you here. My brother Mikey from down in the hot zone, Mr. Florida. What's up, brother? Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us again. Devil Doll, good to have you. Yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, I trimmed my hair yesterday. Thanks for noticing. Appreciate you. Let me see. Strike first, little brother. Good to have you back. Good to see you, bro. I think that about covers it for now. SWAT SW Firefly. I love that name, by the way. Welcome back. It's good to see you. Good to have you here. I saw you here earlier. That's a pretty cool name. I love some of these names. That one is a cool one. Welcome back, and it's good to see you. I've noticed a lot of the newer people here have become regulars, so to speak. Welcome. Great to have you. Love having you guys here, and we have plenty of room for more people. We have a large and loving family, folks, and you are all welcome to become part of it. It is hot down there, ain't it, bro? That's why I'm saying Florida's pretty and all, but I'm good right here in ass Ohio because it just don't get that hot here. It has. It has. I know it probably will in August, but I got some time to prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? Miss Kelly's back. Hey. Good to see you. Thanks for rejoining us again. Miss Lori Smith, great to see you. So great to have you here. Let's see if I missed anybody. Rhea Baldic, thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Good to see you. Another new name. Laughing Stock, hello yourself. Welcome back. Good to have you here. We got 27 awesome people in the house, folks. All 27. If all 27 of you people hit that button, leave me a little DNA on that like button, folks. That's going to help like you believe. I appreciate that. Check this out, guys. Anybody you think would be interested? If nothing else, it's an interesting story time. Michelle Claus, good to see you. Welcome, Sleepy. Good to have you here, dear. Always a pleasure to have you here. Miss Heather's in the house. Welcome back, sis. Good to see you. Again, guys, we're going to tell the story of Mr. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam killer tonight. Hang on. It's going to be a ride. Give everybody else a little bit of time to jump in. There's a few people I know wanted to be here that are not here yet. Share this out, folks. Anybody that you think would be interested, give me a like if you would. And don't forget, folks, after the show, leave me a little bit of a comment. I appreciate that. Whether you love it, hate it, whatever it is, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I just want to know what you think. So let me share this out, and we will get the ball rolling, guys. It's great to have you back. Welcome, Miss Pamela. Good to see you again. So great to have you here. And again, for all those of you guys that are here in the early afternoons, I do appreciate the support and having you guys all there to go through what we go through during the day. Your opinions, your thoughts, your theories, all of it. It all is important. It means something to me, folks. And I thank you for that. There we go. Give me one moment, folks. I'm not very good at trying. All right. Maybe. Okay. Come on in, everybody. Welcome, Weezy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you, Miss Heather. One second, folks. All right, I got that handled now. So sorry about that. Thank you, Miss. 31 degrees hot. Oh, okay. Nice day. Again, thank you, Heather. This channel is 100% crowdfunded, folks. So keeps me coming to you guys on a regular basis. Anybody that should feel as if they want to support the channel that way, it is still very much appreciated. There are links for PayPal, Cash App, and the Venmo there. And of course, any other way you guys feel comfortable with it. And again, don't feel as if you have to. Please don't get us all what does. Dago mean what? It means yes, ma'am, it does. I call myself that. It is what it is. But there's no offense at all. You guys couldn't offend me if you wanted to. Rum and Coke. That's right. There you go. Tsunami's in the house. Good to see you. That's right. I appreciate that, Tsunami. I really do. I appreciate all you guys. All the kind words, all the comments, everything. You know, I do appreciate that, guys. It means a lot to me. I take things to heart, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. And that is why it's so important that you guys are so important to me. So, absolutely, Jane. We are the best. Ain't nothing better than the Italian. Well, except for my wife, Irish. So, hey, can't get no better than that, you know. Welcome back, Crossroads Accounting and Tax. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us again. Yes, it did. We got probably most everybody in here. I see my mods are here. Thanks for joining me again, guys. Always happy to see you. I do have the greatest moderators this side of YouTube, folks. I'm gonna have to be adding some more. Seems I've been growing a little bit, and we might have to put some more out there here and there, but we will see. We will see. We will see. There are, just so you guys know, there's a couple movies. One of them is called Son of Sam. I think it was a Lionsgate film. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest. but it was okay. There is a series though, if you guys want to catch it. Excuse me. It is a very, very interesting show. It's called The Sons, plural, of Sam, on Netflix. It's there now. If you feel like you want to get into it, go check it out, guys. I loved it. I think you will too. But tonight, guys, we're going to tell the real story behind it. Which, if for those of you, a lot of people don't know it. Okay, a lot of people have been coming at me talking about Richard Ramirez being the son of. I said, no. These are two different people. We did Ramirez already. Mr. David James, my brother and friend, how are you? Good to see you. I hope you're feeling better, bro. Good to see you all the way over there in the Australian Down Under. Good to have you, brother. David had caught the COVID, guys, and then he started to feel better. I said, please do, sir, because I can't worry about you being all the way over there. Okay, guys, if you want to do that, go ahead, throw out there. Where's everybody from? I'm in Ohio myself, folks. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Kind of brings us all a little bit closer as we get to know each other better. These evening shows are a little bit more intimate, folks, and that's okay. I like it like that. We get to know people, each other, get a little closer, make some friends. Because again, guys, you guys are the people, as I call you. I have some of the most amazing community members in here. Down in WB. That's awesome. Go Mountaineers. There's no clots in New York City. Hey. We got a couple of New Yorkers in here. Again, I'm in Ohio, the boring state of Ohio, folks. I'm telling you, boring. It's boring. Boring. San Diego. Hey. West Coast in the house. Miss Heather. Came from Ohio too. St. Louis. All right. Florida. Another Floridian. Homestead. Gotcha. Transporter is over the pond, folks. I know that. He's a UKer. Good to see you, by the way, Transporter. Thanks for joining us. Feeling better. Not smoking. That's how. Yeah. It's pretty bad, David. I know. Yes, it is. Sorry about that. It's just setting the mood for it in a way. Setting the mood. You keep yourself on the mend, David. Like I said, I don't want to have to worry about you all the way over there where we can't do nothing about it. All right. Let's see. Yeah. There's a lot of people from Ohio, guys. We can get into that after the fact if you guys want to. We got some time to hang out and talk a little bit about different things like that too. That's why another reason I like these nights. They're more intimate and we can spend a little more time together. Guys, say hello to the background. My only fan over here. That's my only fan right there, guys. Just say hi if you would, if you will, if you should, if you could. Again, guys, good evening. Good night, good morning, wherever you're at, whatever it is. I hope it's good for you because it's good for me. Miss Daisy Dead, good to see you. I'm a cornball, ain't I, folks? I am a cornball. They're muffled here and there. Oh, what's going on? I'm so sick of this. Give me a second, guys. I promise I will get this started. Microphone. Check 1 2 1 2. Maybe it's the music in the back. Hey. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. How does that sound, Miss Heather? Welcome, Cammy Q. Good to see you. The Son of Sam's on Netflix. Yes, sir. Great show. All right, everybody. Okie dokie do. All right. Oh.
You said that
Uno Pink's in the house. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight, Pink. Give me a second, guys. Just setting it up.
Gears tonight, we continue our Only on Fox look at an unprecedented meeting.
A longtime local crime victims advocate with one of the nation's most infamous serial killers sitting face to face. And Fox 26's Randy Wallace joining us live from Southwest Houston with more of this exclusive conversation. Randy.
Caitlin, Son of Sam killer David Berkowitz is a good example of a model prisoner, but most people say he should never be paroled.
I want Stacy's killer.
The Son of Sam.
The Son of Sam.
David Berkowitz. The Son of Sam.
David Berkowitz.
The Son of Sam.
At the age of 23, David Richard Berkowitz spent a year terrorizing New York City. From July 1976 through July 1977, he killed 6 people and wounded 7 others. He gained worldwide notoriety by not only eluding police, but mocking them by leaving letters about his deadly crime spree. He's been in prison now for 44 years.
I'm a pretty hardball as you can get. I mean, I've been to 8 executions with victims' families. So there's no wavering on where I stand on the issue of punishment.
Andy Kahn with Crime Stoppers would be the first to admit serial killer David Berkowitz was a huge ally in his fight against murderabilia, an industry where high-profile killers like Berkowitz and others could make big bucks off of headline-grabbing crimes.
People are fascinated by certain kinds of crimes, or they want souvenirs or things like that. That's part of our culture.
And David Berkowitz is a household name.
You're not going to have serial killers like David Berkowitz. You're not going to have catchy nicknames like the Son of Sam anymore. They're a dying breed.
And so many people don't make it that long in prison. And if they do, they're not functioning to the same capacity that he has.
Berkowitz began his 40-plus years in prison at Attica, one of the most notorious prisons in the country.
One of the things that was most interesting to me is to see his giant scar that he has right here on his neck. from an altercation he had at Attica.
Another inmate wanted to make a name for himself by killing Berkowitz.
I was very fortunate, very fortunate. He missed my carotid artery by just a hair's breadth. And had he struck that, I wouldn't be here today.
I think that he's found a way to thrive in a very controlled environment.
Berkowitz recalled when another inmate said to him, "God loves you."
Listen, there's no way God loves someone like me. I've done too much evil. I've done too many bad things. I doubt if God will ever want to forgive me or even want to have anything to do with me.
Berkowitz says he's turned his life over to God.
I'm sorry I hurt my parents. I'm sorry I hurt innocent people. I regret it with all my heart. And I just poured my heart out to him.
Now he's an elder in the prison's church.
And I also work as a mobility assistant, which means handicapped guys that need assistance getting around. I work in the unit with them. And so that's really, I get a lot of joy out of that, a lot of satisfaction.
Kahn and Cindy Zeiker, also with Crime Stoppers, recorded their meeting with Berkowitz for their Balanced Voice podcast.
We can yell and scream all we want, but isn't he doing something you want inmates to do? Remorseful, repent, give something back to society.
Even though he's serving 6 consecutive life sentences, Berkowitz still periodically comes up for parole. In the past, he's told New York parole officials he's not interested. He's up for parole again next year. Berkowitz seems to be torn, even over the remote possibility of being free.
Of course, I think he should stay there, but I'm also think that he's kind of a success story.
Be sure to watch the Balanced Voice podcast produced by Crime Stoppers with Berkowitz. We've got links for you on our website. Jonathan, Kaylin.
Randy, you have covered a lot of crime. You've interviewed a lot of criminals. You've interviewed Andy Kahn a few times. A lot of this is weird to see them talking. What was the biggest standout to you as you looked at all this and put this all together?
Well, here, I've done a lot of prison inmate interviews. I did one just last week, and they're behind glass. There's no like direct where you can touch each other. And I just almost cracked up when Berkowitz.
Hey, PW's in the house. Welcome.
Kahn. I mean, they were in a very intimate setting for a prison interview.
Yeah, that kind of access is just so rare. Well, Randy, if anybody missed the first part of your story, we have that also on our website, fox26houston.com. Randy Wallace live tonight. Thank you.
All righty, guys. Moving on. Yes. Okey-dokey. Thank you all for it's just a little intro to what we're looking at tonight. All right. Here we go. Again, guys, let me know how the audio is for you guys. Caca. Please and thank you so very much. Much appreciated.
David Berkowitz was born Richard David Falco on the 1st of June 1953. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. After he was born to his mother and father Joseph Kleiman, he was sent off to live with Jewish adoptive parents Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz. His real mother was extremely poor and didn't feel that she could give her child the best start in life. His adoptive parents renamed him David Richard Berkowitz. David grew up in a loving home, and although he had turned to petty crimes such as theft and bullying, he was actually a very intelligent child. Sadly, his adoptive mother Pearl died when he was just 14 years old. David adored Pearl and was distraught at her passing. He later, at the age of 18, joined the US Army. He was honourably discharged just 3 years later in 1974. David went on to search for his real mother when he moved back to New York. On finding his mother, David discovered he did in fact have a half-sister called Rosalind. David's murder spree started in July 1976. He was said to choose his victims carefully, preferring dark-haired or wavy-haired women. Later, this was thought to be a reminder of his real mother, who had abandoned him as a baby. Although he was brought up in a loving family, the death of Pearl and his adoptive father remarrying was the reason he had turned into a violent child who had a fascination with setting fires and later on in life taken to killing. On the 29th of July, David, who worked for the US Postal Services, started his rampage with Donna Lauria, who was aged just 18, and Jodie Valenti, who was 19. They were finishing a night out at the local disco, and while sitting in Jodie's car in the Bronx, at approximately 1 a.m. chatting and giggling when David approached the car, as one of the girls had opened the car door where he produced a gun from a bag that he was holding. He assumed his rifle position that he had learned from his army days and shot Donna, who died instantly. Jody was shot in her upper leg, and then a third shot which went stray. David packed his gun and fled. After talking to the police, Jody had said that she had not known the shooter. She gave a description which was detailed. There were some witness statements to back up this description from neighbours who had seen the same man sitting in a yellow car, who had been perusing the area just hours before the attack. David had now got the taste of murder and the freedom of not being caught, so his spree continued. On October the 23rd, 1976, couple Carl Denaro and Rosemary Keenan were sitting in a parked car. A loud noise was heard, then the front window of the car shattered. Rosemary was in the driver's side and quickly tried to drive away, not knowing the shot had been aimed at them. Carl had been hit by the bullet in his head and had a metal plate to replace part of his skull due to the shot. But luckily, Rosemary only had a few cuts from the glass from the windscreen of the car. Her dad was a detective in the NYPD, as all stops were put out to find the shooter. By this time, they had the bullet casing, which was from a .44 caliber weapon. As the two shootings were in different boroughs, they were not quickly linked and continued to be investigated separately. Carl had long, dark, wavy hair. It was thought that at the time he was mistaken for a woman. After a night out at the movies, Donna DeMazy, aged 16, and Joanne Lamino, aged 18, had walked back home. They were sitting on the front porch of Joanne's house talking when a young blonde man in his 20s approached them to ask for directions. As the girls were about to speak, David pulled out the same gun used in all of his previous shootings and shot at both girls, hitting each of them once. He then went on to shoot his weapon a further few times, hitting surrounding buildings. He was seen by a neighbour who had come out to see what the noise was. Donna was shot in the neck and was lucky to not have any life-changing wounds. However, Joanne was not so lucky. The bullet that she took was in her spine.
That's very true, Tsunami. We covered that one.
This shooting was yet again in another borough, and again, the shootings were
I can give you a list of everything we've covered. If Miss Heather, if you have that, hun, could you put that out real quick?
Was early morning on the 30th of January, 1977. The victims named as Christine Freund and John DL. The engaged couple had just been to see the new Rocky film in the cinema and were on their way to the local dance hall to finish their night out. At 12:40 a.m, 3 gunshots were fired at them, and all 3 had hit the car. John drove away quickly in a panic and tried to find help. He had suffered very few injuries. But Christine had not been so lucky. She had been shot with 2 David's bullets and died only a few hours later in hospital. Lucky for David, neither victim had seen him, so no description was given to the police department. But one thing that had been taken from this was that there had been several shootings with a .44 caliber gun, and because of the differences in the 2 descriptions that had been given to the police, they assumed they were looking for more than one suspect. The police had started a nationwide hunt for the shooter, now dubbed the .44 caliber killer. Later that year in March, David struck again. This time his victim was named Virginia Voskarishian. She was walking alone, making her way home from college, when an armed man approached her. He wasted no time and shot her in the head. 1 shot, and instantly murdered her. The police released these details in the media, which sparked a frenzied search for this serial killer. David wanted to continue with his killings, and so on April the 17th, 1977, David shot at Alexander Essor, aged 20, and Valentina Siriani, aged just 18. They were close to Valentina's home and sitting in the car when both were shot twice each. She was dead instantly. Alexander lived only for a couple of hours longer and died of his injuries in hospital. Neither were able to give any clues as to who the killer was. At the scene, the police discovered a handwritten letter from the killer, calling himself the son of Sam. Many letters had been left at the murder scenes, laughing at the police for their inadequacies and their lack of suspects for the 5 murders and many attempts at murder. This count was to increase yet again. The next shooting was that of Sal Lupo, aged 20, and Judy Placido, aged just 17. They were sitting in their car discussing local news and talking about the terrifying case of the son of Sam when their car was shot at. 3 shots rippled through the car and hit its victims. Sal was hit in the forearm and survived. Judy was shot in the temple and neck. She also somehow survived the attack. Was David getting sloppy with his shooting? David was now to make his final hit. This happened on the 31st of July, 1977, in the early hours. He shot Stacy Moskowitz and Bobby Violante. Stacy had died instantly from the gunshot wound, and Bobby was left blind in one eye and almost blind in the other. But for the son of Sam, this was the end. There was a witness at the scene who was integral to the police in cracking this case. In the end, the police caught David from a parking ticket he got while his car was at a standstill during the murder of Stacy and attempted murder of Bobby. And on August 10, 1977, the authorities finally arrested David Berkowitz, who they called the .44 caliber killer, but he called himself the son of Sam. But this was by no means over. Upon his arrest, David had explained to the police that he had been instructed to commit these shootings by his neighbour, Sam Carr, the reason behind his son of Sam name. These messages had apparently been given to him by Sam's Labrador Harvey. This started a lengthy psychological assessment, and it was announced that David was in fact okay to stand trial. He pleaded guilty of 6 killings and amazingly confessed to around 1,500 fires that he had started in and around New York City before the murders began. When the judge stated that David was to be sentenced to 25 years to life for each of the killings to be served consecutively, as the verdict was given, he attempted to jump out of the courtroom window, which was up on the 7th floor. He was then restrained and shouted that he would kill all of them again, which led to another assessment into his competency of mind. David later changed his story again and resumed it with the fact that he was not directly involved in the killings, but was forced to do them by the cult he was in. David had been subject of many psychological reports, none of which have deemed him unfit to be in mainstream prison. The son of Sam, as he was named by himself, to coincide with the messages he had received from his neighbour's demon dog, was sent to Attica Correctional Facility, where he himself was a victim of an attack. He was slashed across the neck by a fellow inmate. This wound required over 50 stitches. For his safety, he was then moved to Shore and Gunk Correctional Facility, where he will hopefully spend the rest of his life. Although he is now eligible for a parole hearing every 2 years after his guilty plea, he is yet to be released.
All right. Thank you, Miss Heather. Yeah, a little late on that one. Apologize for that, folks. I know, Mama Bear. Short-term memory, guys. It sucks. Sorry. Anyway. It sucks. All right, folks. I'm going to try this out here. I did filter this, but we all know my luck. All right. Okay. One moment.
What's your mail flow like around here? And I don't mean recently.
It's been a lot. I don't make a big deal of it. I just consider it as part of my life now, part of it in a sense, part of my ministry. I get letters from people from all walks of life. Most people are sincere, some having very serious problems. And for whatever reasons, God, I believe, leads them to me. And I'm able to minister to them and encourage them, share Christian gospel with them, and even some teenagers. And so it's been good.
It's sort of ironic, isn't it? I mean, you're doing all this stuff through the mail these days. You keep the post office busy. What's that, a little nod of loyalty to your old employer? You know, once a postman, always postman. Is this all this work that you're doing now? Do you feel that this is helping you make up for some of the bad stuff that you're involved in? Do you feel like you're paying back a little bit?
Yeah, these things, I first of all, I want to be a good Christian.
Okay, so there's part of it. Let me jump in with the rest of it. What an insane change it. Well, here's what happens, guys. A lot of these guys, they're who they are. They do what they do, and then when they go to prison, they find God. Okay, and they find a whole different. They come back to reality in some senses. Now some of this is acting. Not saying he is, but some of these people they have no other choice. I'll just put it that way. They have no other choice other than to be this person. This is their life now. You know what I mean? Welcome, Lena. So at that point, there's where the personality change comes in. And it's kind of interesting to me. It's the psychological background aspect to it. I love it. That's what I've always been drawn to. I am who I am. And that's kind of what got me interested in this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's always been interesting to me. Always been interesting. How you can see this guy, that did what he did in court, which I'll show you that to you guys. In court, he went insane basically in the courtroom, saying he'd do it again, and this one deserved this, and this one was a whore, and she should have been. I mean, and now I hear you, big mouth, and now we have this. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of interesting to me. It really is. The psychological part of it, like I said, very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is one of the things that really got me interested in true crime. Some of this stuff, even since I was young, That's why when this possibility popped up, I was all over this. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Mandy Joe. Oh, what do you want? Come here. Come on. Come here. Meow. Quit meowing. Come here. Come on. Then quit meowing at me then if you don't want to come here. He is a Maine Coon. That's my bobcat. Yeah, he's huge, by the way. This one's huge. My sister or daughter, sorry, my daughter dropped him off one day and said, "Here, Dad." So instead of 13, she has 12 now. Yeah, we are a cat. This community is a cat community for sure. We love our cats in here and our dogs, but a lot of cats. What are you doing now? God, this cat's crazy. Walt Harris, what's up? Good to have you here. All right, folks, now. This is from 1999. This interview is more, I like this one a lot more. I really do. Let's see. Miss Daisy says, well, most of these people either do have mental illness, 100%, because it's obvious not normal, or they try and plead it to get better living arrangements. Facts. I mean, this guy has his own cell and has. Not really. None of us really are. I'm actually getting colder with him, Mama Bear. I've tried. He just drives me insane. He's warming up to everybody, but we're not warming up to him. His name is Stewie. Beautiful cat. I can't. I think I'm still having issues with Oscar and missing him, and I'm just not. You know what I mean? I think that's what it is. Again, folks, let me know how the audio is, and we're off.
You've been here how long in this prison?
About 12 years.
Attica before that, right?
Clinton before that.
And then Attica.
And then Attica. It's been 22 years altogether.
Do you ever adjust to the, I mean, you have to, you have no choice. But how do you adjust to this kind of, for want of a better term, bleak living?
Larry, prison is not easy, but over the years, God has given me a lot of strength and a lot of
See that scar on his neck? That's what that's from.
He's done some miracles in my life, and he's brought me through a lot of things that maybe others would not have survived.
If not for that, you don't think you'd be sitting here?
No.
Because you're going to be there.
Weird me out now.
That's right. I'm doing consecutive life sentences totaling more than 300 years.
You have parole eligibility, but that's very doubtful, right?
Sorry, guys, for the.
As I understand it, actually, I have my parole papers here at really the commitment papers. And as you can see, I'm doing consecutive sentences which run right after the other. So one life sentence overlaps the other, and really what that means is basically it's translated as life without parole.
What do you do with something like that?
Larry, believe it or not, I've learned to just be content and accept the fact. There are things that happened in the past that I deeply regret with all my heart, but I know that I can't change those things. And I have to accept the punishment that was meted.
Yeah, see, that's a pretty raunchy scar, folks. He took some damage with that one. I'm surprised he made it, because that's right there on the jugular, folks. If they weren't on that one, he could have bled out from that for sure. But yeah, look at that thing. That's crazy. Anyway, moving on. Sorry.
Out to me, and God has just given me the strength to endure from day to day.
Well, let's discuss it all.
Okay.
What kind of living condition do you have here? Do you have a roommate? Do you have a cellmate? What do you live like?
Oh, I have my own cell. Some of the inmates are double bunked, which is something they started several years ago, but most of the men here have their own cell.
And this is maximum security, right?
Yes, this is maximum security.
How many hours a day can you go out of the cell?
Well, because I work and go to chapel and so forth, I could spend a good portion of my day outside of the cell.
New York State's pretty liberal, right? You could have visitors every day if they want to come see you. Right?
Yes, yes.
Unlimited phone calls?
Well, in certain time restrictions, but you can make a lot of phone calls.
Television?
They have televisions in the day room, but I'm not a TV watcher.
You don't watch?
No.
What do you have in your cell? How big is the cell?
I guess a little bigger than an average sized bathroom in a home. And there's a bunk, a little table, and a little locker, and so forth. I have my typewriter, my books, and so forth.
How about eating? Do you eat in a group?
Eat in the day room area. There's a day room area. All the guys in the cell block eat.
How do they treat you generally?
Oh, I get along with the guys, thank God, pretty good. Over the years, as I said, God has worked miracles where men have pretty much accepted me, and I'm no different than anybody else. I'm a member of the general population, and I come and go like everyone else, no special treatment. And for that, I'm thankful.
How's the supervisor here? How the guards? How are you treated by the prison officialdom?
Well, I go by the rules, so I don't have any problems.
Would you say you're a good prisoner?
I go by the rules, yeah.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in the mental health unit. It's called Intermediate Care Program, and I'm there as like a peer counselor.
Okay, hold on a minute, guys. Welcome, Star. First off, what's going on? I see somebody's having some form of a disagreement, and we don't do that too often in here, so I just want to make sure everything's good. What is the problem here? What's going on? If somebody has an issue between themselves, I mean, you can talk it out, whatever. I don't like to bring drama in here, guys. We try to keep it drama free. Okay, somebody says we're done. Let's try to keep this drama free here, guys. That's all I ask. Everybody has the right to be who they are in here, and I'm not okay. If it's done, it's done. Let's let it be so we can get through this, okay? We don't do that kind of stuff in here. Everybody has the right to be who they are, feel how they feel, and think what they think on everything, and that's just where I leave it. So what's up, Myers? Good to see you. End of story. Moving on. And okay. Welcome, Mags, by the way, if I didn't see you. Sorry, guys.
The men that have emotional problems, every morning, Monday through Friday, I go over there to work with those guys. And that's really a challenge, and I enjoy doing that very much.
You do counseling?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. It's in an unofficial capacity. I'm kind of like a combination chaplain, counselor, guidance counselor, and just a friend to those guys.
Is this garb that you're wearing, is that official prison garb?
Yes,
it is.
Do you
expect to see stripes and a number that doesn't exist?
No, not anymore. It's just green clothing, though, drab green, but this is part of the prison uniform.
Can you tell us what happened to your neck? It's so obvious. That's a nasty scar.
Yeah, in 1979, another inmate, I guess to make a name for himself, tried to take my life. And he snuck in, I wasn't looking, with a razor and opened up the whole side of my neck. And it was a miracle that I survived. When I went down to the prison infirmary, I walked down there on my own, and I didn't really lose much blood, so I could just walk down there, and they sewed me up. And you know, the doctor there said it's a miracle you survived.
You walked down with that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was a miracle. And after that, I was fine, and just went back to my unit, and like nothing happened. And I believe at that time God had protected my life.
I think everything is good now, Star. Thank you, hon.
Nothing, because I didn't.
You didn't press any
No, I
charges?
didn't press any charges.
Did you get to see him after that?
Well, he was in a different place, you know, so they moved him on. But I didn't. He didn't get in any trouble. And it was a nightmare. I like to forget, you know, years at Attica, going through those struggles.
Attica was the worst?
Right.
Much worse than here?
Yeah, it was, sure.
Didn't you try once to take your own?
Yeah, I agree, CC. You would think, especially on the jugular like that, with that type of how deep that is, you can see, you think he had blood everywhere. Seriously, that's insane. It's all good, Brandy. We got everything covered. Everybody's quiet, calm, and cool now. We're good to go. But thank you, mods, for doing your thing.
Yeah, there were several times that at the beginning, when I first came to prison, I was very suicidal. And I saw no hope in living. I was disgusted with my life. I was angry at a lot of people. I felt betrayed, confused, and I saw no hope. So there were some times when I did try to commit suicide.
Isn't that almost impossible to do in prison, though?
No, I've known a number of men who
You had
over
a
the years.
plan?
I wouldn't say I had a plan. I just felt driven. There was just so much in me that was driving me to destroy myself at the time. But again, God had his hand on my life and said, you're not, you know, David, you're not going to die. You're not going to.
Agree, Mr. Gow, and welcome back. Good to see you.
There's lots to talk about with David Berkowitz, and we'll continue on this edition of Larry King Live right after this.
Past year, the people of this city had seen many faces of the 44 caliber killer in a series of police composite sketches. Not one of his victims saw the son of Sam smile. But as David Berkowitz was led into police headquarters early this morning.
You talking about this guy here? This is David Berkowitz, the son of Sam killer. The other guy that was giving the interview is Larry King. He had a talk show per se. Good evening, Carolyn. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you.
Morning, he broke into a macabre grin. For everyone else in police headquarters, there was good reason for good cheer. The police were convinced they had finally bagged the son of Sam. The infamous 44 caliber bulldog revolver found in his car was rust to ballistics.
I agree. Kind of does a little bit,
Same
Walt.
weapon used to kill Stacy Moskowitz.
That's kind of funny.
We're back at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. I'm Larry King with David Berkowitz. You confessed to these crimes, right? So there was never a trial?
Right. I just wanted to end it, and I was just so distraught. I just confessed and pled guilty and got it over with, and just wanted to get out of that environment.
I'm not going to dwell on it, but let's cover some of those bases. I want to get into the film and your life now. But for people watching, especially younger people who don't know, why? First, what was it like to kill someone? First time you killed someone. We all wonder about something like that. What was it like?
Larry, I don't dwell on that much, and I don't dwell on it at all. It was a horrible thing. It was a horrible thing.
You hated it while you did it?
Yeah, I felt that looking back, I mean, I know that God has healed so much of my life and healed those memories and everything. And I'd do anything if I can go back and change it all and have prevented it from happening.
Has he healed you enough to look at it dispassionately?
Yeah, but it's still very painful. And it was
a
horrible.
Why you were killing? I mean, we've heard about your.
Thank you. You as well, Ms. Heather. Have a great night, hon.
Sort of satanically involved?
Yes, I was. It was the worst mistake of my life. A whole series of events happened that just seemed to be by fate. And
when you say mistake, what mistake did you make before killing?
Getting involved in things. I was lonely. I was looking for companionship. I got out of the service. I did 3 years in the Army. I was honorably discharged, and I wanted to start a life. I enrolled in community college. And
Living where?
In the Bronx. I got my own apartment. I had saved up some money from when I was in the service, and I just wanted to start my life. Coming out, and friends had moved away, and I didn't know anyone. And,
how old were you?
21 at the time.
and that's it, Lena. A lot of these guys, that is what happens. They get caught. It's, we have to say, would you have kept doing this if you wouldn't have got caught? I think they would have, or until they're unalived themselves. Do you know what I mean? And that's a good point, Carolyn. That's a good point. It's a good thing to see the remorse in some of these guys. Every one of these guys, at some point, almost every one of them have shown it. Dahmer showed a former remorse. Now Ramirez, no, that one he was all about what he did all the way to the end. You know what I mean? It's hard to say. It's like I said, yeah, Lena, I agree with you in some senses. This guy was one of the worst guys, one of the worst. Okay. And there's been a lot of worst, but this guy is one of the worst. So, it's kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy, but the mindset change and all that kind of stuff, like I said, a lot of these guys go in and they find God, and then there's a whole 360, and it's like, why couldn't you have done that before you did this? You know what I'm saying? Why? if it was that easy to do when you go in here, well, I'll tell you why. Because at this point they have no other choice. This is what they have to do. Every day of their life, they get to sit and think about what happened. So if this is what your life is for the rest of whatever your life is going to be, sure, let's choose this because it's going to look better. Okay. And that's, these people don't want to die. It's as hard as it is to believe. A lot of these guys, and they don't want to die thinking the whole world hates them. That's the psychological part of it that gets me sometimes. You know what I mean? For real. So give me Stewie. Yeah. What are you doing now, you psycho? See, this cat's a year old, guys, and he has not been fixed yet, and he is insane. He's running around and freaking out and so on and so forth. Throw male armor on him. Yeah. The 70s were the decade of some of the... Oh, yeah. I agree with that one, Michigal. The 70s were crazy, folks. Manson and Berkowitz, Ramirez. I mean, it was insane. It was like, what the hell? One decade brought all these people out. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Rumsey, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. I appreciate you. I don't normally bring up drama, but I wanted to reach out and check on you. I witnessed the live stream. It's all good. Absolutely good. Don't worry. I have thick skin, but I appreciate it, Rumsey, and welcome. It's good to have you here. I appreciate you. Yeah, I agree. PW, I think Ramirez put on a front, folks. I think he was all talk, and that's me. That's me. Specifically, I don't know if everybody thinks that way, but I think he was a big show. And that's personally what I think about him.
Fine. And
So you went to school? Did you have a life? I mean, were you dating girls? Did you work?
I was dating a little bit here and there, just very, very casually. Wouldn't really call it even a date, but the hours I had, I was going to school in full time. I was working at night as a security guard at the time. I had no real social life,
And then you got mixed up with some people?
Yeah, I got involved, and it was a very long process, and I look back with regret. And
To a young person who might be watching, who might be affected by, is this kind of a cultish group, or?
I guess you can say that.
What mistake did you make? What didn't you see that you should have seen?
Danger.
Was this a group of people?
Yeah, I was adventurous. I was just an arrogant person. I was lonely. I just always felt it's such a long story. It goes back really to childhood and the struggles I had as a child. Many psychological problems growing up.
Did you know something was wrong with you? I mean, like when you were in the Army, did you ever have times when you say, I don't know what it is. I'm out of touch with reality, or not in sync with other people?
Yeah, right. That happened a lot. When I was growing up, I was so disruptive in school and had so many emotional problems, behavioral problems, that the school officials told my parents, you're going to have to keep David in school, you're going to have to take him to a child psychologist. They made some kind of arrangements for me to go, and I went for about 2 years, once a week, to Manhattan with my mom. She would take me there to just try to deal with the situations. I had very bad bouts of depression when I was a child. I was very suicidal.
But you were getting help too, right?
Well, they tried to help me, but Larry, that didn't work. It was like a waste of time.
Should you have been confined? Would it have been helped had you gone to some sort of institution early?
No, it wasn't like that. I could still function. I mean,
No, as people working around you, let's say a guy who was another security guard would have no knowledge of this, of what was going on inside your head.
No.
What finally spun it off?
There was a lot of pressures and a lot of decisions and a lot of bad choices. I felt that at this time I had, regrettably, I mean, I look back at it with just regret. At this time, I had made a pact with the devil. I had allowed this satanic thing to control me, and I felt these paranormal powers. I know that sounds so hard to understand, but that's what was happening. And I felt somehow invincible. I felt that I had this power, and I was unknown to me. I was slowly being led down a path of destruction.
Did it give you a high? In other words, what was the plus for you? There has to be a plus. What did you get out of it?
Nothing.
So you were not happy when you were doing this?
No. I just felt like a brainwashed robot.
Really?
Yeah.
What is that like?
I just felt I had no mind. I felt something else was controlling me.
And you took it through a dog?
No, that was.
What was that?
That was just. I'd rather not talk about that. That was just.
No, I'm not going to pressure you, but there were pressures on you.
Yeah, sure, there were.
You were hearing from sources outside of yourself.
Not in that psychological way, but it was a satanic thing.
Why do you think it took you to take a life of someone? Why do you think that it took? I mean, there are a lot of people in cults and a lot of people who do weird things. Why did you do what you did, do you think?
At the time, I was misled. I thought that what I was supposed to do. It was
You
the
thought what you were
stupidest.
doing was right?
It was not right, but that somehow this had some kind of.
See how that made him uncomfortable. Now, it just, if you're good with yourself now, David, what's this all about? Why don't you want to talk about the dog? That was a big part of this. Are you embarrassed about it now because it was stupid and it made zero sense? So there's the point, guys. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of interesting.
Plan.
Compulsion.
No, it wasn't that. It was just more complicated than that.
All right, what was it like to read about yourself? In other words, there is a killer loose in the city.
I didn't relate to that.
Didn't buy the papers every morning?
I saw them, but it was like something else.
Didn't say that's me?
No, it didn't. No.
So there was no plan on how I'm going to get away with this?
No.
No plan to deceive?
No.
Maybe you wanted to get caught?
Yeah, I wanted to get out of that, definitely. I just said, oh, God, I didn't even believe in God at the time. I was just a real mess. I'm very ashamed for that. It was so stupid. It was such a waste of life. And I think of the people.
Now, something else I want you guys to notice with this, okay? I talk about a lot of different things when I do this. There's one thing that I pride myself on doing, and it's body language and things like that. He will not look at Larry now, okay? He keeps looking up, to the right, to the left, and down, but will not look at Larry, which tells me in a sense that I don't think he's telling the truth in some senses with this. Seriously. He's playing it off, and he's trying to detach from who he is right now. He's trying to detach from this part of his life due to the painful part of it, in my opinion. And just watch him. You can see it. He's looking at everything except the person that's talking to him. Kind of interesting, again. Amanda Joe, what did you say, hon? Wasn't you? Wasn't me. Maybe it is, Carolyn. That's very possible. That's maybe he has to detach himself from the situation to talk about it because he's so ashamed of himself or embarrassed or all of it. You know what I mean? Disassociating. Absolutely, Mandy. Absolutely. The psychological part of it, again, guys, is what interests me to this. My wife has got 2 degrees in psychology, and I helped her get those, when she went back to college. So I know a lot about that. I should have the damn degree because we did a lot of it together. And when you go through that kind of stuff, you watch and you learn these things, folks. It's like amazing to learn. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You watch and you learn, you start learning what people are and who people are and how people are and things like that. And it really blows my mind. That's a good point right there, Devil. Good point. His way to actually convince himself, pulling away from his guilt. Definitely. Most definitely.
People that lost their lives over this, and it was about nothing, just a...
You think your God has forgiven you?
Yes, I know he has. It was a long process to understand that, but I came to terms with that. I know that his word has promised that he's forgiven me.
We're going to get into that. We'll be right back with David Berkowitz right after this.
It's one man, and it could be anybody in the street, Everybody looks suspicious.
You walk in the street and everybody looks suspicious. You're so scared to say maybe it's him,
I wouldn't even let the car warm up anymore. I'd take right off.
Did you used to sit in a car?
Plenty of times.
What's that? You should do pro bono on the internet. Oh, yeah. Definitely patient. Well, being in EMS and fire, and then in dealing with, basically going to school with my wife and this and that, having 7 children, you learn these things, you have to understand that when you learn people, guys, and you observe, I'm an observer. I always have been. You kind of pick up on these things in life, and there's no reason to be any other way than patient with people, because, not everybody understands things the way we do. I see what you're saying, Mandy. Yeah. I've been told that before, actually. It's kind of funny you said that. And that's, his God didn't make him better. He's still the same person. He is lying, trying to convince us he is a good person, which he is not. Well, here's the thing. Maybe he's trying to convince himself, PW. That's the thing. You got to think about it like that. I'll give anybody a chance at rehabilitation, but the things that he did were so insanely horrible that it's hard for anybody to believe that he's rehabable. Do you know what I mean? So you got to think about it like that in some senses. But yeah, I can understand where a lot of people see that certain thing, certain ways, and so on and so forth. 100% Rumsey. This is a painful part of his life that he wants to get away from. That's why he got out of it. You know what I mean? So bringing this up and talking about this like he is, it's something that he doesn't have to do in prison. You don't have to do that. I'm sure he went through, he's been in prison for 20 some odd years, 22 years at this point. So he does his therapy that he has to do. And then he was done with all that, I'm sure. And now bringing this up is bringing back, rehashing all this, which is eating at him, because this is, the side of him that he does no longer want to be in his mind. At least he's saying that. This turns him back into that person in a sense. You know what I mean? So there's that. Sorry to keep interrupting, but I just like talking about these things when they get brought up. That's a good point, Eddie. I think all things are possible with God, 100%. If you have that faith and that feel for that, then yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely do. Do you think it's shame? I absolutely do, Mandy. I think, of course, he's ashamed of himself. But when we plan out our lives in our mind, oh my God, dude, come here. Okay. There. Say hi, everybody. Welcome to the family Crossroads. We got a new meatball in the house. Look here. There. Say hi. Say hello. Okay. Are you happy now? You got my attention? I do think it's shame. Again, like I said, he wants to detach from this. He doesn't want to be part of this anymore. And this interview is relighting that fire. Again, welcome to the family Crossroads. It's great to have you. Say hello to Stewie, everyone. This is Stewie, Mr. Stewie Kitty. Good to see you, Dilly Bean. Oh yeah, he's definitely a Mancoon. And they are definitely annoying. I have 3 of them. Are you happy now? You got my attention? Are you happy? There we go. Okay. So yeah, I can agree with that 100%. All right, move.
Me and her used to have our best conversations in the car. Not anymore. I won't stay in the car. I'm too worried.
How about you? How do you feel about it?
Well, now, very frightened, especially that I have brown hair. I'm afraid to walk out at night. I used to, walk out and I wasn't afraid, but now that guy's loose.
We're back with David Berkowitz. When the movie came out, Son of Sam, which by the way did not do well, did that surprise you that it opened and almost closed?
Oh, yes, that did. That did.
You were quoted, I want to clear this up, you were quoted in the New York Times by Mr. Harden as saying that everything there is about Spike Lee and his family, I pray for Spike Lee and his family and his wife Tanya and his 2 children, Jackson and Satchel. God does not want me to be angry with anyone. Did you say that to Mr. Holden?
Only in part. Actually, there was a misquote. I think Mr. Harden did a very fair job in the article. Mr. Harden, right, did a very fair job. He, interviewed police officers. He interviewed a reporter. He interviewed some of the families, the victims, and of course, he interviewed me too. And I shared some of my feelings about the movie. At that one part, I mentioned to him that I was following as much as I can about the making of that movie because I was like really concerned over these things that were happening. It was like this big storm was coming in my direction, and I had the feeling that this was all going to whip up into a frenzy again with the news media, which it did in part for several weeks there in like June and early July. The media kind of went on a frenzy, the newspapers, and there was things every day. And I had feared that was going to happen. So I had a lot of concern. Concerning Mr. Lee's family, I was misquoted totally. I don't monitor anything about his family. I pray for them. I have absolutely nothing against Mr. Lee, and I never said anything bad about him. I pray that bless every area of his life. I pray for many people.
Did you ever talk to Mr. Lee?
No.
Did you see the movie?
No, I would not want to see that. That's not a part of my life.
Did you read the reviews of the movie?
I saw some things, and pro and con, just mixed reviews, and I just thank God that it wasn't the big this big storm that I thought.
Well, I guess you're kind of glad that it came and went then. In that sense.
I'm glad that's out of my life, at least for a while. I'm glad, yeah, because I've moved on from there. I'm not living in the past anymore. I have friends now.
Prison friends?
Friends on the outside. Like God has given me a whole new life. This tragedy that happened 22 years ago, that's not part of my life anymore.
You have friends, let me discuss that. You have friends on the outside.
Yes,
who come to know you since this.
Yes, a lot.
How did you make friends on the outside if you're confined to a prison?
Over the years, Larry, my Christian testimony has been shared in many places, and a number of Christians who heard it or read about it were very blessed, and they would get in touch with me, and a lot of friendships were formed.
Why did you leave Judaism?
Well, Larry, I haven't left Judaism at all. I feel that I'm totally Jewish. I was born a Jew. I feel I'm going to leave this world a Jew. I believe that Jesus is the Messiah of the Jews, and he loves the Jewish people. And I see myself now. Before, I had no interest in spiritual things, or the spiritual things that I were interested in were bad things back then. But today, I worship the God of Israel. I share from the Old Testament all the time, and I see myself as being.
You did realize there were a lot of Jewish people very ashamed or embarrassed at your name, that Berkowitz, that there was a Jewish serial killer. Were you aware of that? That people took that almost personally?
Probably. I'm not aware, but I'm sure that happened. Yeah.
Because I guess the Jews have, a certain moral code that they've set among themselves that this is embarrassment. Do you feel sorry for that?
Yeah. The things that happened. There was a time when I was like no longer in control, and.
Do you have to forgive yourself? By the way, is that part of this process?
That was part of the process. I've learned that God has been showing me to forgive myself, because it's in the Bible that God, in the Old Testament and the New, that God forgives sins for those who come to him through faith in Christ, and I did that, and I feel that God has completely forgiven me, and he's taught me how to forgive myself. He's allowed my mind to be healed. It's been a long process. I've been a believer now in Jesus for 12 years.
What do you say to those who say this is, I think I'll give you a quote from the mother of your last victim, Stacy Moskowitz's mother, that was your last victim, said, "Show me one person that goes away from murder who doesn't turn to religion. It's sick." She said that people do that. You realize, of course, that there would be doubters who say, it's the old conversion.
Oh, sure. I'm sure there'll be doubters. Many of the men
like
who are
I
in here
said,
in prison are in here for violent crimes, including murder, probably a greater majority of them. And really only a fraction of those have ever turned to Christ or found, as people say, religion. It's not what people think. I wish more would come to faith in God. I wish more would begin to.
Was it a slow process for you?
Yes, it was very slow.
It was not some overnight message from above.
No, it was a slow process. Another inmate had reached out to me 12 years ago. He came up to me one day and began to share his faith. We became friends, and in the space of maybe a couple of months, he led me to a deeper faith in God. But I was under so much bondage. I mean, my life was just such a total wreck that it took a lot for God to reach me. Took a lot for God to reach me.
Are there days of doubt?
There were days of doubt.
None now?
No, I don't have any doubts now.
More in a minute with David Berkowitz from Sullivan Correctional Facility in South Fallsburg, New York. Don't go away.
I wrote David Berkowitz a letter.
Yes, I did. He is PW. He is 60,
My daughter had just turned 20. I only had
69
years.
or
I want him
67.
to know
One of the two. He's still
what
at
she was
the
about. From
Saginaw
the time she was
prison.
born, as she was
Same
growing
place
up,
he's been.
in her tender years and as a preteen and things like that. He took away her life.
This is CNN.
I am left with absolutely nothing. He left me nothing. He left me with memories. Thank God I have that. But he left me nothing. I lost the whole family with broken hearts.
Yes, thank you, Heather. And you guys are
Exactly.
awesome for being in here. Thank you so much for
I
joining us
could kill him
tonight.
with my bare hands, and I am not a violent person. I could probably kill him and go for a dinner and go to sleep that night very peacefully.
We're back with David Berkowitz. Have you ever had to deal with relatives of the victims directly? Have you ever heard from them or spoken to them or had any contact at all?
I did receive, in 1993, I did receive a long letter from a mother of Stacy Moskowitz, and she wrote me a beautiful letter. She had seen a program on Inside Edition, which aired back then, and it really touched my heart. For many years, I had been praying for her, as well as for all the people that were hurt by this tragedy, and I did write to her a long letter, I think last year, and she received that well, but there's a lot of pain and hurt in their lives, and I wish I could sit down and talk with some of them.
What would you say?
I'm sorry, and I know that wouldn't be enough.
So what else would you say?
That I wish I could just undo it, all that happened.
There is a young man living, right? He was blinded, right, but not killed.
Partially blinded.
Yeah. Have you ever heard from him?
He did make a statement through another news program, and I did have a chance to respond to that. He had some misconceptions. I tried to say I was sorry, and I just
Does
shared
it
from my
bother
heart.
you that some people don't believe it? In other words, that in a Christian, Judeo-Christian nation, which is based on forgiveness, they don't forgive.
It bothers me up to a point, sure, because I wish that others could experience the forgiveness that I know I've received from God. Even though I don't deserve it, I've never done anything to deserve it. I did what the Bible said. I asked God for forgiveness through Christ, and I know His Word says He's completely forgiven me. It took me a number of years to understand that and to accept that for
Think you
myself.
would have been able to forgive if it were your daughter or wife?
I don't know. I pray every day for those that lost loved ones, and I pray that God would touch their lives and allow them to heal as much as possible.
Before we ask about what you do on the block, and I know later you want to do a prayer, and I think that's essential that people see you do that.
Welcome,
When,
Tiffany. Good
after
to see you,
would commit
hon.
crime, and you would go back to wherever you lived, was there any remorse, any feeling of this was wrong?
I knew it was wrong, but at the time, you see,
What's Mags? You said breaking news. What are we talking about here? Did I miss something, or are you talking in regards to what we were talking about back here? Just want to make sure. Okay. Good to have you again, Tiffany. Sorry, guys. His sorry comes out like he really isn't sorry. There's no emotion in it. He's trying to convince himself that he changed, but it's hard to believe. Very, very, very possible, PW. I agree. And I'm sure he does struggle with it. So, yeah.
when somehow, to me, when a mind is captured, like by Satan, and the mind that you can't look at things,
Welcome,
evaluate
Stevie.
things in the right perspective.
So
Something else takes.
I personally, FBI identified Zodiac Killer. Oh, okay. Interesting. Again, because he's been identified like 35 times, but I wonder if they really did it this time. I would like to have a conversation with him in regards to the Idaho 4 case, guys. I'd like to see his take on it. Seriously, just out of curiosity, I would love to see what he thinks about it. Because I'm sure he would never have that conversation, nor would he ever even look into something like that. He's probably not allowed, to be honest with you. But I would love to see what David Berkowitz thinks of this case. Truthfully, it would be interesting to me. So, again, sorry for interrupting it, guys. We'll get through it, I promise. Gary Francis posted, but yeah, that's happened a couple of times, actually. Is it Coffin Gobbles? Mandy, come on. Come on. Not sure with that, Kelly. I never actually really thought about that. It's a good point, though. Good question. I'm going to be looking that up now for sure.
A logical question that you can't answer logically, right?
That's right.
Because there's no logic dealing with it.
No, there isn't.
So what would you feel?
I was just empty. As I said, I was a blank. There was like a void, you know.
Let's say you're out to dinner, and someone would say, "What do you think of this killer loose?" Oh,
I don't remember what I felt back then. Like stuff like that. It was like I was detached from it. It was a terrible thing.
Now, you know
Welcome,
killers,
Christine. Thanks
They're
for joining us,
killers in
hon.
this facility.
Yeah.
People who've killed other people.
Yeah.
You talk to them.
Yeah.
Is that what you do a lot?
Sure.
And you tried to convert them?
I try to share the gospel because I know that Christ could help a person. Christ could change a person's life, and that's what I strive to do every single day as a minister. I mean, God had taken me, a murderer, and I feel that He's made me into a minister, just like He's done to the Apostle Paul.
So you counseled them. Have you had much success?
Yeah, sure. With a number of guys, there have been guys who have come to a deeper faith in God. There have been guys when I know they've been depressed and struggle. A lot of guys have guilt. A lot of guys, when they come to prison, it's really, they go through a process of reflection over time where they see that they've thrown away their lives. They've destroyed their relationship with their family. And that's when the regret begins to set in. Guys begin to seek an understanding of why they're in the mess that they're in. And here's the chance to share the gospel because Jesus came. The Bible says Jesus came not for the righteous, but for sinners. And so here's guys that are sinners like myself. And I say, hey, come on, I want to tell you that God loves you, that He's got hope for you, that He's got a plan for your life. You don't have to walk around angry all the time. You don't have to be suicidal. God can give you a reason to live, a reason to get up in the morning. And the guys, take me seriously when I share. And there are other inmates too who are Christians who do the same thing. It's not just me in here.
The guard outside showing us in told us that this is a very tough bunch in here. Like this is not people you meet every day.
Right.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with them? Those that, do they ever hurt you?
No.
None.
No. Some may not like my spiritual beliefs.
Do they suffer remorse?
Some of them do, absolutely. Yeah. They're human like everyone else. And guys in here go through tremendous struggles inwardly. A lot of them, play the macho role and keep things inside. But I know a lot of guys cry on their pillow at night.
We'll be right back with David Berkowitz right after this. Don't go away.
I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't forgive him. I don't have a whole lot of hate and anger, possibly because I'm still alive. That certainly has a lot to do with it. What he's doing now, he's a born again Christian, which I think is just great. Although when you're in prison for the rest of your life, I don't think there's a whole lot more to do. I'm kind of ambivalent, to be honest with you.
I cried. I think that's enough with respect to any kind of question concerning his present relationship.
May we ask him if he wants to see his son?
Yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please.
We're back with David Berkowitz touching some of the bases. You were adopted, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is your father still living?
My adopted father?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Does he contact you?
Yes, we're in regular contact. He's a great dad.
Was he a great dad when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. I had great parents.
What went wrong there, do you think?
Well, no, with my parents, nothing at all. They were the best. My mom, she had passed away in 1967, my mother, Parole, and my dad, who's, thank God, is still alive today. They were the best parents a kid can have. I was an only child, and they were a little on the poor side. My dad had to work 6 days a week, and they did a great job. Trying
so you're
to
not into
the problem. No, the problem was with me. I had a lot of emotional problems, which I know that broke their heart. I saw my parents, break down and cry many times because they saw I had going through so many struggles, the depressions, and not talking to them.
Did you ever find out who your real parents were?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I did meet my natural mother, and I did find out that my natural father had passed away in early 70s.
Did your natural mother have any problems that might give you a clue to any of the gene problem that might have occurred here?
No, nothing like that at all.
Yes, Cammie, and
She
welcome.
was also Jewish, just like my natural father. And she turned out to be a very nice person. I met her when I was, I think, around 22 years old.
The problem, David, was with you, as in Shakespeare. The problem is with ourselves, right?
All right, PW, thanks for joining us, hon. We will see you soon, dear.
When I was first arrested and I was in Kings County, the prison ward there, they had given me medication. After I came upstate to prison and I was in Attica for a brief period of time, I was receiving medication. And then of course, I had some suicidal episodes and I wound up going to a Marcy psychiatric center there for a little while.
Are you in good health now?
Yeah, absolutely good health, thank God.
Have you had any homosexual problems here, which is common in prison, is it not?
No, I haven't, no.
Is that surprising to you? Isn't it fairly common?
No, not that's just,
is that overdone?
That's overdone stuff from the media, yeah. I mean, it happens here, but it happens everywhere, I'm sure, you know.
Not to a greater degree here with
No.
these men confined for great periods of time?
No.
All right, you counsel them. Do you get psychiatric counseling?
No, I don't know. The Department of Corrections has given me a clean bill of health. As I said, in the general population, I have no problem, no mental or emotional problems. Whatever I had in the past, God has completely and totally healed me.
So what do you do for the people you counsel?
I give them a lot of encouragement.
They let you have private meetings with them all day, and how's it work? Give me your day.
Well, I get up in the morning pretty early. I like to pray. I like to read my Bible, make myself a cup of coffee. And
you do that in your cell?
Yeah, right. There's a little thing you can warm up water. And then I start my day. I go to breakfast and programs. I have to go. I leave my cell block and go down to the unit there, the intermediate care program. I go to that block and I begin to just be with those guys. Those are the guys that have some kind of emotional problems, coping difficulties, and I spend the day with them. There's a psychologist, a social worker, psychiatrist in the facility.
Is it a room you're in?
No, it's a regular cell block.
A cell block.
Cell block.
And you counsel them individually and in groups?
We used to have a group Bible study that I did, but the doctor that allowed me to run it, he had moved on to another assignment, so it kind of dissolved. But I encourage the guys to go to the chapel. Basically, I empathize with them. I want to be a good listener, and I'll share scriptures with them.
Do they ask you a lot about your past? Are they interested in Son of Sam?
In here, most of the guys don't even talk about it. Guys don't ask me about that. Once in a while, a guy will be curious and ask a question, but they say I don't really want to. They see I don't want to talk about it, so they respect that. I thank God that, as I said, I'm like everyone else. Nobody fusses over me or
and that's the way you want it.
Right, that's the way I want it.
Back with more of David Berkowitz after this. Berkowitz, so you showed me this card. You'll take a piece of scripture and read it to the men?
Right. See, like what I do is sometimes, in a way I help every of the guys, I'll take a scripture verse from the Bible and I'll share it with the guy. I'll give it to him. I'll say, let's say, Joe, could you read that back to me? And we'll discuss that. It's so, like,
let's say you do Isaiah. Thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in thee. Trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength.
Right.
You have the prisoner read that to you.
Right.
And then you discuss what
right. Then we'll talk about it. Like I'll say, well, Joe, what does it mean? Now, these guys have some mental problems, coping problems, problems with suicide attempts, depressions, and all that stuff. And I'll say, well, Joe, what does it mean to be in perfect peace? And how is God going to keep your mind stable? And we'll discuss that. Then I'll say, well, what do you have to do? Does it come automatically? And he would respond, no, you have to trust God. I say, you see, there's the key. Now we've got to work on learning how to trust God.
Do you feel by doing this a sense of accomplishment? Do you feel that you have a purpose on this planet?
Yes. God has shown me that he has given me a lot of purpose. Not just even here in the prison,
absolutely, Rumsey.
You read things other than things biblical. You read books.
Sure.
Are you open to enlightenment in areas other than just the church?
Oh, sure. I read all kinds of books. I'm not much on novels, but I read autobiographies or.
What do you do at night? You don't watch television, so after dinner, what do you do?
Well, I have my time at the end of the workday. I could go to the chapel on the nights we have Bible studies or services, or I could stay back on other nights and write letters. I read and so forth.
You can make phone calls, right?
Yeah.
You have to call collect?
Mm-hmm. Call collect.
Visitors come how frequently?
Well, they have visiting 7 days a week in the daytime.
You get a lot of visitors?
Not a lot. Once in a while, some people come up. I have a number of friends from the area come by and visit.
Do you ever think that someday maybe I'll be paroled?
No, that's not.
That's forget it. Right?
No, God, I realize that because of what happened and the way the sentencing structure is, I'll be in prison for the rest of my natural life.
Did you always act alone?
Well, not fully like that.
Were other people caught?
No.
They're still out there?
Most have passed on, and
But they were involved in killing as well?
They
got away with it?
Well, no, they haven't got away with it, and they won't.
You think they're in hell?
Some have lost their lives, and
You gonna go to heaven?
I know I'm going to go to heaven when I die. I don't deserve it, but that's God's mercy, because that's the promise. You know, I know that the blood of Jesus has washed away
What kind of prayer do you want to do first?
I'd just like to pray in general, if it's okay.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes, sure.
Thank you so much, Larry, for this opportunity. And it says in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, the Lord is speaking. He says, if I shut up heaven that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, it says, if my people which are called by my name shall humble
I'm right there
themselves
with
and
you,
pray
Rumsey.
and
I'll
seek my
explain it
face
after this.
and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin, and I will hear their land.
You feel sad as to how you will be remembered.
Yes, because I have regret over that.
Your obituary will not have pluses in it. While you in your heart have done lots of good for lots of people since all of this.
Of course, I know because of my past, they will always remember the bad, but God has had mercy on me, and he'll have mercy on anyone who calls upon him.
You a good person, David?
I feel that God has made me a good person, a decent person. I was not always a good person, and there's a part of everyone that has a propensity to do bad. Even today, I know I could choose to do bad, but I don't want
bad thoughts.
Bad thoughts or sinful thoughts come to everyone, but the Bible says that God makes a way of escape when if someone has a bad thought.
You see how he answered that? He didn't. He walked all the way around that. Larry said, do you have bad thoughts, David? There was a long silence. Everyone has bad thoughts, blah, blah. That's not what he asked you. He asked if you have bad thoughts. You're a serial killer, not everyone else. You know, that kind of caught my attention for sure.
They can call on the Lord, and the Lord will deliver them from that.
Are there days that's real hard, though?
There are days I struggle a lot. There are days I feel that sometimes everything is in vain, although it's not. And there are days when I feel a heavy spirit sometimes. I really feel an oppression fighting against me, but I press on because I know who has helped me in the past. It's the Lord, and he will always help me.
How old are you?
I'm 46.
And are you envious that I'll go out of here and you won't?
No.
David, I thank you very much for this hour.
David Berkowitz was eligible for parole in July, and at the hearing, he stated he did not feel he deserved to be set free. Parole was, of course, denied. He's eligible again in June 2004. Thanks for watching. I'm Larry King. Good night.
And there we have it, everyone. Mr. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam. Right, Mags. Yeah, he is. I feel, listen, this is hard to say, okay? I like to give everybody a second chance. That's me. Even people that are horrible like this person was and is probably still deep down inside. There's some people I could never do it for, okay? This is one that I don't know. I feel like he's comfortable. He's made himself comfortable with himself enough to where he can live. He can live his life and be happy every day because he has made that inside of himself. I don't feel that it's completely real. I'll say that. I don't think it's all 100% real, guys. I think this is a facade he puts on in some sense, but I think that he has convinced himself that he's okay with what he did. Or not that he's okay with it, that he forgives himself. He's convinced himself that God has forgiven him. Not saying that God doesn't forgive, guys. I'm not saying that at all. You know, how you hear how he says, I know I'm going to heaven and this stuff like that. You know, that's what he's convinced himself of. I feel like somebody earlier on said that if he was released, that he would probably go back to something. And I feel that happens with somebody like him that has the propensity to do what he did. I feel that if he were to get out right now, something, not to say that he would actually hurt somebody again, but something, he would somehow do something that is not something he should be doing. Okay. Because it's in there. It's still in there. And the fact that he is in prison gives him no choice but to be the person he is being now. Okay. And that's how I kind of feel about that. Oh yeah, very much so, Rumsey. You can see that. Gilded Peahen. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. I think he would, Carolyn. I really think that he would snap. Something would break inside him. You know, it's duct taped right now, is what I'm kind of saying. I think if he got that freedom and he got around that society again like that, I think it would happen. I do. That's just me though. You know, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor of any sorts whatsoever. I'm nobody. I'm just your everyday Joe. Okay. No pun intended. But I think that if he given some time, not even a lot of time, you know, 6 months back into, especially the way society is now, he may actually go back to being who he was. Okay. It's just these people, there's something in their mind that is so broken. Okay. And some things you just can't fix. You just can't fix. So I feel like David Berkowitz is one of those people. If you gave him the option and said, okay, David, you're completely rehabilitated. We're proud of you. Here's $500. You're free. I think for a month, he would probably try to stick to his religious background that he has now. He would try to stick to the lifestyle he's been living for about a month. And once temptation of society reached out and grabbed a hold of him, I think he'd be right back where he's at now. And again, maybe not as traumatic or extreme. He's older now, okay? But that's it, Rumsey, right there. His mind would overtake him, I feel. And that's why it would have happened for sure. That's my thought. And that's a big point right there, Crossroads, is that a lot of these people, we've watched stories. I have with my, you know, my smaller group of people that were regulars, of people that have been lifers that can't get out, that don't want to get out because they don't know how to live outside the structure of prison, folks. They have to have that daily routine, that daily structure. And if not, they can't control themselves. They can't handle themselves. He's definitely one of those people, you know, in my opinion. And that's what it is. He needed structure in his life that he didn't have. His life was all over the place, folks. You know, and he was choosing whatever he could find that showed him some kind of comfort of home or family, of whatever you want to call it. And at this point, that's where that blew out. You know what I mean? And that's where it happened. Welcome, OCD. I agree with that, OCD. And welcome, by the way. He lives in his world in prison. He's happy there. Absolutely, Daisy. Dahmer's demeanor and profile totally creeps me out, and he's completely 100% gay. But still, I feel for the victims and the families. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. He's not going to misbehave in prison because he doesn't want to end up like Dahmer. Very, 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 very possibly true. I absolutely agree with that comment. Actually, I like your guys' input on these stories. I really do. I love it. I like your thoughts on these and your opinions on this stuff. I really do, guys. It's interesting to me. As a veteran, I can appreciate the structure of military life giving you order, 100%. He was also a veteran. A lot of folks have a hard time lacking structure, and fall apart. And that is where a lot of criminals are born out of that type of a thing. Okay. They really are. A lot of criminals that are raised with zero structure and a lot, zero family base or any of that kind of stuff, when they come out, that's where the criminality comes from, because they've never had that. So that's why when a lot of these guys go into prison, they're automatically model prisoners, because that structure is something they've been reaching for and quietly begging for in their lives. And that's what makes them act out like they do, because they never had it, It's a very interesting situation and scenario to look at. I wonder how much fantasy he has. And so probably a lot, Carolyn. Like I said, I think that he lives in a fantasy world now of God and I'm a good person. That's the fantasy now, but he's not. David Berkowitz is never going to be a good person. Just like he said, anybody that says the name David Berkowitz, it's an automatic cringe. Okay. Because David Berkowitz is an American serial killer, period. There's no other way to look at that. You can't say his name and add something nice to that sentence, because it just doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't. And that's what he's trying to latch onto for his own mind and his own well-being, that I have changed to me. So to me, I'm a good person. And he knows that nobody's ever going to look at him in that form. And that's sad that he hasn't, that part right there saddens me, because he has not to himself dealt with that. So again, thank you, Ms. Heather. Guys, this channel is 100% crowd and family funded, folks. That means all you guys keep me coming to you on a daily basis, guys. Anybody that would or does feel generous enough to want to support the channel to keep me coming to you guys, there are the links for the PayPal, Cash App, and the Venmo. It is so gratefully appreciated to keep things running by doing that, guys. So thank you so very much. Yeah, Carolyn, I agree with that. He definitely did, and still does on a daily basis. Every day that man stands up and he looks in a mirror, it's still there. He can see that person, that David Berkowitz that did what he did all those years ago. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if Catherine Ramsland has interviewed him or profiled him in any of her books. I would be interested to know. That I don't know, Rumsey, but that's a good point and something to look up. Absolutely. Some people, like I said, are just born evil, and some become that way for different reasoning. The person I was telling you guys about here, that's, something I'm close to, that I grew up with, that changed where I grew up at in my whole life. The thing that got me interested initially in true crime itself at 12 years old or 11 years old at that time, because this person was older than me. I'm going to give you guys the story on it. We're done with the David Berkowitz for tonight, but since we're in here and we got some time, if you guys do, I'm going to tell you guys another story and what made me be the person I am in here, and to do what I do in here. The start of it, at least. Okay. If you guys want to hear it, of course. If you don't, I understand completely, and I won't put you guys through that. When I was 11 years old, you taking off, Wheezy? All right, gotcha. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I do appreciate you, and I hope you have a great night, and I hope to see you again soon. All right, Crossroads, Laughing Stock. Okay, well, I am from. I grew up in Warren, Ohio, very small, crappy town. Okay, and just like every other kid, I was in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, all that. And we had friends that were in that group with us as well. Okay. 1 second here. Where are we at? 1 second, everyone. town that I grew up in back in the 80s, guys, was like most other towns in the 80s. You know, kids would go out and play and they didn't come in until the streetlights came on, that kind of thing. Okay. And the neighborhoods all knew each other's kids. Okay. I've never really told this story. I've given bits and pieces of it, but this one is because it's part of my heart, folks. That's why. But I'm going to tell it today because there's something going on with this case locally, and it's bugging me. So I'm going to put it out there. So give me a second here to pull up. I'm going to pull it up so you guys can get the true news and all that stuff of it. 1 second. Sorry, folks. This isn't something I was planning on doing, but I don't mind doing it, actually, at this point. This is horrid, by the way, just so you guys know. Okay. Now, let me see. I might not be able to find the full.
One of the men convicted in the 1980s.
All right, I'll give you bits. I'll put this together in pieces because it's not like all these other big time stories. But again, I'll give you something here. This is the town. I don't live in this town anymore, but this is where I grew up, went to school, born and raised. All right, here we go, folks. I'll give you a little bit of this and that with it. Let me know the audio is okay.
85 death of 12-year-old Raymond Fife has died. 50-year-old Timothy Combs died at the Grafton prison last week, according to the State Department of Corrections. Combs was 17 years old when he, along with 18-year-old Danny Lee Hill, attacked Fife as he was walking home from a Boy Scout meeting. Combs was given a life sentence for the crime. Miriam Fife, Raymond's mother, reached out to us tonight. She said, "I'm not celebrating his death. I wouldn't do that. But I can rest in peace knowing that one more person won't be let out of prison and do to a child what he did to Raymond. I can rest easy on that one."
Begin tonight with continuing coverage on the request for a new trial of convicted murderer Danny Lee Hill.
That's a murder case that began 31 years ago, in which Hill
convicted of raping, torturing, and burning 12-year-old Raymond Fife. A visiting judge has now made a decision. 27 First News anchor Stan Boney joins us live with the details about this new request.
Well, Danny Lee Hill's case for a new trial centers around bite marks that were found on the body of Raymond Fife after he was found murdered here in Warren in September of 1985. In the ensuing trial that took place here at the Trumbull County Courthouse, it was determined that those bite marks did come from Danny Lee Hill. But since then, there are new dental forensic guidelines that state that bite marks are not good evidence and should not be used possibly in a trial like this one. Hill's lawyer said that that was enough evidence to allow for a new trial. However, visiting Judge Patricia Cosgrove today disagreed with that and denied Danny Lee Hill a trial. Now, here's what Judge Cosgrove had to say. Even if this court were to conclude that the bite mark evidence were unreliable, there is no probability that a new trial would result in a different outcome. Now, we also have videotape of Danny Lee Hill. This is 2008.
And Hill was
yes, Carolyn.
Convinced the court that he had mental issues and therefore his death penalty should be overturned. It was Danny Lee Hill along with Timothy Combs that were both convicted of murdering Raymond Fife in September of 1985. Combs remains in prison, as does Danny Lee Hill. Only Danny Lee Hill is on death row. Now, earlier today, I talked with Miriam Fife, the mother of Raymond Fife, and asked her if she is frustrated that 30 years after this trial, it is still being drugged through the court system.
I understand the court system because I've been in it so long. I think it's just that these frivolous things that they keep filing, and I don't understand the law and why it allows this to happen.
Well, Trumbull County Prosecutor Dennis Watkins today also released a statement saying he was pleased with the judge's decision. He said, quote, "This is one of a litany of opinions from various state and federal courts affirming the fairness of the trial and the justice pronounced in 1986. Live in Warren, Stan Boney, WKBN 27 First News.
It's been 33 years since Warren's Danny Lee Hill was sentenced to die for the murder of Raymond Fife, who was just 12 years old.
Now there's a chance the U.S. Supreme Court will ultimately decide if Hill lives or dies. With these new developments, let's go live to 27 First News anchor Stan Boney.
Well, the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office Office today announced that this coming Friday, October 12th, the Supreme Court of the United States will hear the death penalty aspect of the Danny Lee Hill case. It was September 10th, 1985, right here at the Trumbull County Courthouse, right behind me, that Hill was sentenced to death for murdering young Raymond Fife, only to later come back to the court and say that he was.
Okay, here's what happened. September 10th, 1985. He was 12. I was 11. We were all in Cub and Boy Scouts. We lived in a kind of a bad neighborhood, but not really. We all played in the neighborhood. We all did our things in the neighborhood, rode our bikes around, and weren't really ever bothered. Okay, and we all kind of stuck together in threes and fours, groups of threes and fours. We would all go to the Cub Scout meetings at the different where they had them, and this was in a specific place every week that we went to. And we would take a shortcut through the woods. They would take a shortcut through the woods. Okay. And now I was very, very close with his brother. I knew Raymond, but I was very, very close with his brother, Mike. Okay. And we were always around each other. Okay. So, he got on his bike that night and cut through that wooded area. There were supposed to be other people with him, but nobody went that night. He was by himself. As he's riding through that area, it's a wooded area, very small, probably maybe about a football field sized path you go through, and you'll come out on the other main road. And then right next door to where you come out is the hall where they would hold the meetings. Well, he left and he got partially into that area, and he never showed up at the Scouts meeting. And then he never came home. And Miriam, who you saw there, who's a wonderful woman, I love her so much, of course, contacted the police. Nothing was done back then till 24 hours after to make sure that he was not a runaway. So, because of the regularity of us using that path and riding through that area, they went looking for him and sadly was found. I'm going to put this up because of what I'm getting ready to tell you guys. And if anybody can't handle this, please feel free to step away. Please. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, there was an 18-year-old Danny Lee Hill and a 17-year-old Timothy Combs that were back in there drinking, smoking weed, just back in that wooded area, which we had seen people in there at other times. And we just kind of stayed away from that when we saw other older kids. They grabbed him. They started messing with him. They grabbed him off the bike, beat him up a little bit, and threw him to the ground. I'm not going to go into specific detail, but he was sodomized with a broomstick. They cut off his penis, put it in his mouth, lit him on fire, again sodomized him, and then SA'd him. The one gentleman did. The other one says he didn't. Not gentleman. The one garbage man, piece of garbage, Danny Lee Hill, said he did. The other one said he didn't. Okay. And then left him to die. When he was found, he was barely alive. And then it was horrifying. It was just horrifying. I'm glad I never saw that because I never could. I wouldn't be the same person. Okay. He died later that day at the hospital. Now, here's the kicker. Danny Lee Hill, the one that you saw in the orange jumpsuit, this and that's been fighting the death penalty for 30 some odd years. His uncle was a lead detective in the local law enforcement, Warren City Police Department. So somebody heard Danny talking about something within the next 48 hours. And his uncle went to him and said, "Did you do this?" And his uncle was kind of intimidating. He basically, I think he beat it out of him, and he told him the truth. And his uncle drug him to the police station and said, "He did this. Here he is. His friend Tim was involved. There they are. Lock them up. Thank God for that, because God knows what would have happened. I think they'd have figured it out. We have pretty decent law enforcement around here. So that happens 30 some odd years ago. Okay. And he claimed that he was mentally retarded, that he didn't understand what he did, that he was tested, and he did have a very low IQ. But and here's my biggest thing with this case, folks. He knew enough to do the things that he did and what those things mean and what those things did. Okay, so you do know. You are well enough and in your mind to know what is right and what is wrong. And that's that. Okay, so we've been paying for this guy to sit on death row for, like I said, 30 some odd years. I swear to God that his mother, Miriam, is staying alive just to watch this man go to the chair or injection or whatever we do now here. Kind of, Mags. Yeah. He was just trash. He's always been trash. This is the type of person that I say cannot be rehabilitated, will not be rehabilitated, so on and so forth. Okay. And I have no sense of compassion for somebody like this. I absolutely, I don't say the word hate. Okay. It's a fine line between what I feel for this person and that word. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and let this play, and then I'll show you what else we have.
Was mentally disabled, claimed that he was mentally disabled.
Here, let me back that up. This is what I was just talking about. Turn it up if you guys can't hear it. It's kind of low for some reason.
Say that he was mentally disabled, claimed that he was mentally disabled, and that the death penalty that was originally issued in his case should be overturned. Now, Hale's death sentence was upheld by 3 different courts. It went through the court system over the last few years and has been upheld by 3 different courts. Only this past February, the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, it's a federal court out of Cincinnati, ruled that the death penalty case should not stand, and therefore it should be sent back to the court, and that Danny Lee Hill should be resentenced. Now, both officials with the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office and the Ohio Attorney General's Office say the 6th Circuit Court was wrong, that they erred in making that decision, that they have proven that Danny Lee Hill is not mentally disabled, and they want the U.S. Supreme Court to once again put Danny Lee Hill back on death row. Now, this has nothing to do with Danny Lee Hill's conviction. That has been upheld all along the way, even by the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. What may happen if the Supreme Court does not hear it, it'll be sent back to a lower court who will then have Danny Lee Hill resentenced, and there is certainly the chance that he may get life in prison at that point, but the death penalty case would be off the table at that point. Now, one official did tell me today there's a number of things that the Supreme Court can do when it meets on Friday. It could actually rule on the case, make a decision at that point. It may decide not to rule on the case, or it may ask for more information and maybe extend the case a little bit longer and make a different decision at a later date. Live outside the Trumbull County Courthouse, Stan Boney, WKBN 27 First News.
Justice delayed is justice denied.
Oh, so this piece of garbage has fought for all these years with all his appeals and his attorneys fighting, saying that it's not fair that he gets the death penalty because he was mentally incapacitated and did not understand what he did wrong, so on and so forth. Good to see you, Pamela. Thank you for joining us. Again, Gilded Peahen, good to see you. Mind of Monsters, welcome. Virtual hugs and pause. Oh, yeah. It really is. Okay. Again, guys, this is what kicked this off for me. Okay. Well, it is, Daisy, and it wasn't back then, though. Okay. Again, this is horrible. But anyway, here's another piece to this, guys.
Trumbull County Prosecutor Dennis Watkins reacting to a decision by the Supreme Court centering around Danny Lee Hill's sentencing. The death penalty was thrown out by a federal appellate court last year, but now it could be reimposed. 27 First News reporter Nadine Grimley has the latest on the decision tonight.
Justice is a journey. It doesn't end until it's done.
Joined by Raymond Fife, Trumbull County Prosecutor Dennis Watkins reacts to a decision made by the Supreme Court of the United States just today in Danny Lee Hill's case.
As far as we know, it's unanimous. There were no dissents. The whole court said the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals wrongfully applied a law
Hill was convicted in the 1985 attack, rape, and murder of 12-year-old Raymond Fife. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals threw out Hill's death sentence last February. The panel said there was clear and convincing evidence that Hill is mentally disabled. Then Attorney General Mike DeWine appealed that ruling. In today's Supreme Court opinion, the justices said the appeals court applied the wrong standard when it found Hill was not eligible for execution, sending the sentencing issue back to their court for another review.
I was happy about it. I wanted it to be over, period, but I just, I know that, okay, maybe this case, when it's finally settled and everything's done, will help another case at some point coming down the pipe.
We are very happy that it's going back and the death penalty may be imposed. And as we said with the appeal, and as this strong opinion says, the evidence is there.
In Warren, Nadine Grimley, WKBN 27 First News.
A new development today in the case of a man on death row for the murder of a 12-year-old Warren Boy Scout. Danny Lee Hill was convicted in 1986 for the torture, rape, and killing of Raymond Fife. Last year, an appeals court ruled that Hill should not be executed because he is intellectually disabled. Today, that court reheard the case following an order from the U.S. Supreme Court. No word on when there will be a decision.
Covering Trumbull County, the Trumbull County prosecutor wants the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in on the Danny Lee Hill case. Hill was originally sentenced to death.
Just so you guys know that the death penalty was reinstated. This has been happening over a 3-year period of time, and it finally was reinstated. Thank God. But again, how many of these monsters sit on death row for 30, 40 years before they're put to death? That should not be the way it is. I understand that they are offered appeals for their things, but it should be one appeal and out the door you go, period. And we have been paying, taxpayers have been paying for him to live, breathe, and eat every day that he's been sitting there. 3 hots in a cot, as they call it. He gets 3 meals a day, the best medical coverage that you can ever have. He's got a roof over his head, and he's protected to an extent because he is, a sex offender, a child murderer. He's protected. It sickens me, okay? Yeah, absolutely, Heather. Yes, he did. He bit his lower region off, and then he put it in his mouth. Okay, it's just I can't understand the mind workings of this. Again, sodomized with a broom handle, lit him on fire, physically SA'd him. And did all those things again and again and again. And at this point, to say that you're mentally incapacitated and you didn't know what you did, the decisions you made to do those specific things tell me that you're smart enough to know that that's something that's horrible that you're doing. And they didn't know this kid from Adam. Okay, they didn't know who he was. He didn't know who they were. They just decided, what the hell, we're going to do this because we're going to do this because that's what we have walking among us, folks. These sick, demented freaks of nature, as I put that, okay? And it just disgusts me that they even took the death penalty away and gave him life in prison. I don't get that. I don't understand the judicial system when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's insanity. It's sick. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. All right, let me see if this is the one here. This shows
It's the latest chapter in the
a little bit more of that scenario. All right, here we go. It might show a little bit more.
legal saga that's left a Trumbull County mother fighting for justice
more than 30 years after her son's death. Danny Lee Hill was convicted of torturing and killing 12-year-old Raymond Fife in Warren back in 1985. The 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled this year that executing Hill would be unconstitutional because he is intellectually disabled. But now that same panel of judges heard oral arguments on the case again last week at the request of the Ohio Attorney General. So joining us to weigh in on where this case could go from here, our legal expert and author of The Executioner's Toll 2010, Attorney Matt Mangino. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. I wanted to know what you thought about this case. This was a rehearing, something that the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost requested. The state appealed the 3-judge panel's ruling that it would be unconstitutional to give Hill the death penalty. The 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals based their decision off of a 2002 Supreme Court ruling, which was actually long decided after Hill was sentenced. So can you explain, in terms of where this goes in a courtroom, why this case has legal grounds to be challenged?
Well, because of a Supreme Court decision in 2002, Atkins versus Virginia, in which the Supreme Court said that you cannot execute an intellectually disabled person. And as a result of that, people who've been sentenced, as in this case, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, can still challenge their death sentence based on the decision in Atkins versus Virginia. So that's, this is obviously a convoluted case. It's gone through the state courts, it's gone through the federal courts on more than one occasion. But ultimately, this is the path that these cases have taken since 2002.
And, you say it has had many twists and turns throughout the legal system. How important do you think it is that the courts review this and get it right this time?
Well, what happened in this case is that the Sixth Circuit, in a panel of 3 attorneys, found that Danny Lee Hill was intellectually disabled and therefore was not eligible for the death penalty. What was just argued was an en banc argument before the Sixth Circuit. And that's where all the Sixth Circuit judges actually hear this case and will ultimately all make a decision. Ultimately, this case, I think, is going to end up back with the United States Supreme Court to make a decision. Because what happened when Atkins versus Virginia was decided was that the Supreme Court said you cannot execute the intellectually disabled, but it didn't define what intellectually disabled means. And so it left it up to the states to decide what an intellectual disability was. So you could have a decision in Ohio based on intellectual disability, which is different than a decision in Pennsylvania. And so cases have gone back to the Supreme Court to try to define, what intellectual disability means. What the court then said was, here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean just somebody's IQ. And that's the decision that's being, the Sixth Circuit is deciding with regard to Danny Lee Hill. His IQ is below 70, but does that itself alone mean that he's intellectually disabled? And that's what the courts are going to have to determine.
Absolutely. It comes down to the nitty gritty. I know a lot of taxpayers watching this saying, geez, this is costing a lot of time at the state's level, a lot of money. After this, does Hill have any other legal avenues that he could exhaust to fight a ruling if it is determined that they need to override their prior ruling and uphold the death penalty? Let's say this does go in the state's favor.
Well, he could ask for review by the United States Supreme Court. And so you don't have an automatic right to appeal to the United States Supreme Court. You have to ask the court's permission, and then the court will review whether or not they even want to hear the case. And if they decide to hear the case, then you can argue it in front of the United States Supreme Court. So that's not something that's available to him automatically, but it's, I'm sure, something that his attorneys will pursue if he gets an adverse decision by the en banc panel of the Sixth Circuit.
Yeah, he's hoping the decision keeps him from going to death row. Let's say it is overturned. How long would it take before he would be scheduled to receive the death penalty in Ohio? Would that be a matter of months? Explain that timeline and how much time his attorneys have to then go in and say, we appeal this again.
Right. So that's a whole second set of challenges that would come, in the event that the court says that his execution could move forward. Then there would have to be a death warrant. He would be put, obviously there's other people on death row. There haven't been any executions, I don't believe, in Ohio this year. The number of executions are dramatically lower than they have been in the last 10 years in the state of Ohio. So the question is, yes, if they could impose a death penalty or carry it out with regard to Danny Lee Hill, when will that happen? Nobody knows. And there'll be, once a death warrant is signed, there'll be a whole series of additional challenges with the courts.
And throw into the mix, apparently President-elect Biden says he wants to end the death penalty. So we'll have to see if the federal level makes any changes.
Right. So President-elect Biden could stop the death penalty on the federal level. It would still be up to the states to determine, what they want to do on a state level. Certainly, he could recommend that he'd like states to move in the direction of abolishing the death penalty, but that's not going to happen necessarily on a state level, even with President-elect Biden's prompting.
And there it is. So, there's nothing more. He has been reinstated to death row. And he is awaiting the death penalty. Biden obviously didn't do that. And again, I feel like Miriam Fife, his mother, is staying alive at this point to see this happen. there's that. That is what got me, actually, the first stepping stone that got me enrolled and involved into true crime. Not to mention the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew from the 70s and early 80s. I absolutely will, Carolyn, in celebration of that, 100%. Again, the Hardy Boys, to change the channel here a little bit, not be so blah and drab, because this really does bring me down. But I just wanted to tell that story. That is what kicked it off for me. Then, like I said, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew stuff, Encyclopedia Brown booklets, little tiny little stories they would tell, was all the kick for it, all the way up throughout the years, and then little by little, I just got more and more and more involved in it. But that is what gives me, that story is what gives me the passion that I have for cases that involve any form of kids that in my mind, I feel like children are kids. That makes me get so hot about those stories, guys. So that's where it all comes from. 100%. And I have had a passion for it for years and years. And I always will, that and the paranormal are my two loves, and they always have been, the X-Files and just all of that kind of stuff. So that's where I come from as far as this stuff comes from, where this comes from for me. So that is that. Absolutely, Crossroads. I mean, I'm sorry there wasn't more. There's not a whole lot I can put out on it. I don't. Hold on, folks. Sorry about that. Absolutely, Star, and thank you for being here to see and to be part of what I do too. I love what I do. And again, guys, I feel like us in the true crime communities have to be the voice for the voiceless, and we are all in search of true justice for these victims and their families, and that's why we do what we do. There's no two ways to look at it, I mean, there are some people that are out doing this for different reasoning. It is what it is. Absolutely, Miss Carolyn, absolutely. That's going to be a great victory when that happens for a lot of people in my life and around us. Because here's the big part of this, guys. This is the scary part, guys. There were two other people, me being one of them, that could have been involved, could have been there that night, and maybe it could have been us. You see what I'm saying? That's the scary part of this whole thing. That scenario is what made people start watching their kids closer, locking their doors. Kids started staying home more, things like that. That's what changed society around here and around there at that time. So I'm just grateful that, they did go backwards and put him back into the death row. He doesn't deserve anything less. Like I said, these are the people that I feel cannot be rehabilitated, that don't deserve a second chance, that are that monster and always have been that monster. And the fact that they use mental disability to try to get out of something like this, just go. Walk on. There's a special place in hell for somebody like him. I absolutely do feel that. The other gentleman, Timothy Combs, and it was proven that he did not have as much hands. Hold on. Timothy Combs didn't have that much hands-on with that scenario. 95% of it was Danny Lee Hill. Tim just kind of stood there. He did do some of the things, but nothing compared to what Danny Lee Hill did. So he died 2 years ago from some kind of a lung disease or something, I believe, in prison, of course. And I don't feel bad for that. I don't. So, but By the grace of God, there go I. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. He did play the system 100%. And that's the thing, folks. He came up with these ideas to go to his attorney. So if you're mentally handicapped, how'd you think of that? How'd you figure that out? This guy's claiming to be mentally retarded. How did you figure out that that's even an option for you to go out? How did you read about that to find that out? You see what I'm saying? There's where the problem lies. Thank you again, Heather. I appreciate that, folks. Or Miss Heather, sorry. Anybody that has donated to support the channel with that, guys, I do appreciate you so very much. So very, very much. Keeps me coming out here every day. And I do love what I do, guys, just so you know. For those of you that haven't figured that out, I absolutely love this. I really do. I feel like I'm doing something, important when I do these things. And I feel like I'm helping in some way, too. So I really love what I do. I'm good, Rumsey. I'm good. Thank you for asking. Absolutely, Mikey. It's what people do. It is what people do. We had a woman out here where I live at, close to where I live at, I should say. Well, it's like a town over, 2 towns. But anyway, that murdered her husband and took off to her home country of Brazil and was gone for 10 years. And they couldn't extradite her back. And they knew she did it. He was very well liked in the community and very well known, this and that. And there was nobody else around that could have done it. She bolted and headed back to Brazil, where she was from, and stayed out of it for 10 years. They finally got her back here, and they locked her up for the rest of her life. Thank God. I'll bet it is, Mikey. I'll bet it is. I'd love to hear that case. Sounds interesting, bro. Really does. Yep. That's a good point, Red. I respect that. I was right. Absolutely. Thank you, Carolyn. It's hard to talk about that. It really is. It bothers me. Every time I see it on the news, I get a little bit stumbled up with it, but it's rough. It really is rough. So, and I feel like here's the thing, guys. I'm gonna say this too. I almost feel guilty because I want the man to be put to death for what he did. Okay. I really do feel guilty about that. I know that I probably shouldn't, but I do. I'm not that person, guys. I'm not. I don't have the will to wish people to be deceased, regardless of what they've done. Okay. It's just not in my makeup. But in this situation, I feel like I need to want for that to happen. And I'm going to feel bad. I know I'm not going to feel any better when it does happen, because I don't want anybody to lose their life. That's just me. But at the same time, I almost feel like I could very easily flip the switch myself. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm torn with that. It's rough. Well, see, that's a different scenario, Daisy. I don't even want to talk. That's why I didn't cover that case. I could not cover that case. I had so much angst towards that woman, or whatever she is, that creature. When you purposely take the life of a child, how can you even remotely justify that in any sort of a mind? Good, bad, sick, dark, whatever it is. A child is a child is a child is a child, folks. The innocence alone should prevent that. But that means that woman, whatever she is just the darkest, deepest evil you could think of, in my mind. Just saying. 100%, Daisy. 100%. Thank you, Star. I appreciate that. It's who I am. I'm a loving and caring person. I always have been. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And a lot of times it's been my downfall, but it is what it is. In a way, good things have come out of the case with Raymond. I hate to say it, if it's even possible to think, but there have been some good things that have come out of it. You know, his mother, that lady that we saw, Miss Miriam Fife, ended up working for the court systems and the advocate system when after that happened for the rest of her life. She really did. Before that, she worked at a department store, and she went out and helped thousands of people that were going through similar scenarios in different sites like that and worked with them as an advocate. And that came out of this. The fact that I got into true crime and have tried to help people in these cases and stuff, that came out of this. You know what I'm saying? So these are good things. And that's how I look at this. I agree, Carolyn. I agree. And I would fight to the death for that, you know, to prove and to make sure that that happens. So thank you, Brandy, and thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. I do. So that's it, guys. As far as Mr. David Berkowitz and my story, that's it for this evening. Tomorrow again, folks, I will be live between 12:30 p.m. on tomorrow. We're going to end the week with an open discussion, a Q&A session, where all of you and whoever else wants to come in can come in and ask questions. And it's all on you, folks. It's all about you guys in regards to the University of Idaho murders. That's what tomorrow is all about. We're going to talk about anything and everything and all of it. It's up to you. Whatever you want to talk about with this case, it's on you. And we're going to answer whatever questions we can and talk about things whichever way you want. So I hope to see you guys all there tomorrow for that. As of tonight, it's time to do the poll. Does anybody have any suggestions for Monday night's version of this? That's what I'm getting ready to do, Heather. I see it. Thank you, hon. This is why I have moderators, because they remind me of everything. Before we do this, does anybody have any suggestions for, and thank you as well, Miss Star, any movies that are based on true crime, true stories that have been put out? Do you recall, or anyone in the 80s, a male child predator was kidnapping boys, stalking them from video stores? I do remember hearing about that, Rumsey. It's been a long time ago. That's a fact, Mags. So guys, throw me Crone Case, Idaho. Was there a movie made out of that one? We're not done yet, Rhea, but thank you so very much. I appreciate that. See, this past Monday, I had some really good, interesting situations you guys were throwing at me, but that's okay. I get a chance to put the one out me and Mikey been talking about. Oh, okay. I got what you're saying, Rumsey. Thank you, Heather. There is the list right there of the movies and stories we've done so far. Candy Montgomery story. Okay. I don't know that one, I don't think, right now. Believe it or not. You would think, because I know most of these. Okay, Carolyn. Like I said, was there a movie that they had put out about that one that you are familiar with? If not, it's maybe something else that I can look into as an actual show one day and cover that. It sounds interesting, to be honest with you. Another Idaho scenario. Okay. Do you know what the name of the movie was, Carolyn? By chance. I will check it out myself, and then we can do the story on it if that's something you're interested in. I'll throw that up for a vote, and then I'm going to jump back into it. Carolyn, you did. Interesting. That would even help with that scenario too. Definitely. One of the movies that we're looking at doing the backstory on. Here we go, Mikey, is the Donnie Brasco. Okay. If there's a movie about it, yeah, just give me the name so I can check it out myself. But I'll put it on here up for a vote. And if it doesn't get through tonight, guys, we're going to go back to it. I have it written down. The Craigslist Killer. Ah, interesting. Good one. Good one, Brandy. Natalie Holloway, Smothered. Yeah, oh, yeah. Yep, he is finally being brought back and checked out for what he did. Because I really strongly feel that he was completely responsible for that, in my opinion. Like I said, Carolyn, if we don't get to it this week, we will get to it because it's another interesting story. So, To Catch a Killer with Frank. Oh, yeah. Did you get? We just did that one, Mags. I don't know if you saw that. We did that last week, actually. To Catch a Killer, the John Wayne Gacy story. And the fact that they used Brian Dennehy, that was crazy. Great movie, though. It was. Most definitely. The Changeling. That was a good movie. Interesting, Brandy. Interesting. So, here's what we'll do. Please do me a favor, though, if you would, Carolyn. Find the name of that movie. We'll write that down, and we'll put that on our list to go forward with, okay? Crime Channel. I'm going to look it up myself. No worry about it. Brittany Drexel's case? Yes, it was. Good one, Sherry. Good one. So what I'm going to put out there for tonight is going to be the Craigslist Killer, okay? And we're going to put that up, and we're also going to put up, what's up, Red? You said wowza? And Donnie Brasco. So I'm going to start the poll right now. Please do, because I'm interested in that one. If you can't, I will look myself as well. I have it written down in my little handy dandy Dago notebook. I have to start making those as oh, it's okay, Max. Don't worry about it. Merchandise. Nothing. The Craigslist Killer. Yeah, I got to give Brandy an option too. Did you say anything, by the way, Red, in the back? You haven't really thrown anything out ever, have you, bro? I don't think so. You're typically lurking and making a judgment on things anyway, so. What did Daisy say? Daisy said, what did you say, Daisy? I cannot see your comment yet. Where's it at? I'll find it. Let me do this first. All right, so. And again, guys, these don't always have to be serial killers or anything like that. There's a lot of crime stories that were turned into movies that are still crime, real crime. There's a lot of it in the Donnie Brasco story. It's kind of a crazy thing, but all right, guys, that first poll is up there. Please vote if you would. Grown family. Aha. There you go. All right. Well, then that one will be on Monday night when we vote. That'll be one of the ones I throw up there then. Grown Family Massacre. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. Again, guys, this channel is set up as your channel. This is for you guys. I do this for you guys. You know, I enjoy it too, but you know, that's what this is generally why I do what I do. The Girl in the Shed. Yeah. Sherry, somebody said that one last week. That's going to be the other one I think we throw up. What the heck? It was called something else, though. I watched that movie and was blown away with that. She raised her child there for so many years, and it was just, that was crazy. Very crazy story. Yeah. Yes, we are. Always. Forget about it. You know, it's a fugazi. Monday, it is grown. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll put that up for vote on Monday, and we shall see. Yes, it's a fugazi. Forget about it. I don't think I'll be able to sleep tonight. Thanks for the great. Oh, absolutely, Rumsey. I hope I didn't make you not sleep because of it. Make sure you guys are voting on this. Well, that went up pretty good. Okay, well, let's see what we got so far. Let me see. Let's just drop it there. This should be pretty one and done. 72% said yes to Donnie. 27% said nerp. Not tonight, Dago. Not tonight. Yes, hit that like, U-Haul. That's right, bro. See? It's rubbing off. It is rubbing off. That happened around here, too. The Craigslist killer. All right. Rigged it. Yes. Mikey. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about doing that one, too. That was one of my favorite stories of all time. It's one of the greatest movies ever put out. Dago, I do have the same thoughts you had before you got yelled at, lack of a better terms. Gotcha. On last night, what you talked about. Oh, yeah, that was a joke. I still don't understand. Like, first of all, I've never had anybody talk to me like that, honestly. And especially after I was asked to come up there and I was just trying to be helpful. You know, it just, that blew me away. I was really shocked in that scenario, but it is what it is. No worries. Like I said, I wish that person the absolute very best. And I hope everything works out well for her. I do. But I appreciate the support for that, Rumsey. I do. Very much do. Thank you again, Heather, for that. It was last night, very late last night. I was bored, awake, and decided I felt bad because somebody had been through a lot of crap, and I thought, what the hell? Let me go see if I can jump in and talk a little bit on the chat. And then somebody asked me, said they'd be honored if I came up on the panel. So I did. And then something just didn't happen right with that person, and they got upset, and that was that. That's it. And again, I'm not going to talk bad about that person. I'm not trying to at all. I'm letting it go, and I'm done with it. It is what it is. Moving on. Right. So it was just different. That's all I can say. Wow, that one went very fast. Well, let's see here. I guess it looks like this one might be the one. 89-10. Oh boy. Sorry, Mikey, we lost it again. We're going to do it one of these days, I'm telling you. So, everybody, your homework. Yeah, you did, bro. You definitely did. Okay, guys, your homework tonight, should you choose to accept this mission, is to check out the Craigslist killer. That's okay, CC, hun. I got thick skin. You know that. You know where I come from, CC. You know where I started at. So that's nothing, okay? That is nothing. It is what it is. I'm very comfortable with who I am. I know who I am. I'm very comfortable with what I do and how I do it. So I have no qualms whatsoever. It happens. It happens. So Craigslist killer it is. We're going to get Donnie out there one of these days, guys. I promise you. No, I know, CC, and I appreciate that, hun. I do. That's the homework. Check out the Craigslist killer. And we're going to talk about it Monday night. Again, folks, I will be here tomorrow between noon and 12:30. We're doing the open discussion Q&A possible scenario for the University of Idaho murders. We're going to talk about all of it, any of it, every bit of it, okay? And it's all on you guys. Whatever you want to talk about, you throw it out there, we'll talk about it. So I hope to see you all there. Again, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Besides that, guys, don't forget, guys, to love yourselves and love each other. Thank you, Ms. Heather. Guys, if you have not become a member, if you're not a meatball, think about it. jump in the sauce with the rest of us, become an official member of the family, I'd love to have you. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys, yeah, we are going to be starting that movie night thing, and it is a members only scenario. So there's a good reason alone just to become a member. Again, it's only $2.99 to kick it off, guys. And I promise you, when we get enough people in that Discord, we're doing the movie night thing. So we're going to hang out, watch a movie together, and maybe incorporate it into what we're doing here. Thank you, Mrs. M, so very much. Again, Heather, thank you for that as well. Anybody that has donated to support the channel, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. That keeps me here, guys, because it is fully funded by you guys and you guys alone. Excuse me. And again, guys, thank you so very much for supporting the channel. As I said, folks, love yourselves, love each other, because that's all we got nowadays. Don't change a thing about who you are, because you guys are the beautiful people, as I call it. I love you, each and every one of you guys, so very much, and I will catch you on the other side. Have a great one, folks. Bye-bye.